This video will focus on one particular way of linking sentences together, which is through the use of words such as because, if, and since. These words are called subordinating conjunctions, and they can be used to link sentences together in several different ways. How these words are used will affect the punctuation of a sentence, and so the use of these words frequently leads to run-on sentences. We'll discuss how to avoid those errors in this video. This video is part 4 in my series on correcting run-on sentences. So before you watch this video, make sure that you've watched part 1, identifying run-on sentences, part 2, dividing run-on sentences, and part 3, linking sentences with and, but, or, and so. Also, if you're watching this as part of a module in Canvas, make sure that you've completed the quizzes on run-on sentences as well. We'll start with a very quick review. Here's the definition we looked at. Remember, run-on sentences occur when 2 or more sentences are written as one sentence. In order to correct a run-on sentence, we often divide it into separate sentences. Another way to correct a run-on sentence is to link sentences by placing the words and, but, or, and so between 2 sentences. And one final cause of run-on sentences is using subordinating conjunctions such as because, if, and since to link sentences together, but not using the correct punctuation. And that's what we're talking about in this video. Now we'll talk more specifically about how words like because, if, and since are used to link complete sentences together and the punctuation that must be used when doing this. Remember that a sentence that contains more than one subject-verb combination without a word like and or because to connect them is a run-on sentence. This example sentence has 2 subject-verb combinations, but it doesn't have a word to connect them. There is only a comma between these 2 complete sentences, so this is a run-on sentence. To correct these sentences, we can simply divide these 2 complete sentences into separate sentences by replacing the comma with a period, or we could connect the 2 complete sentences with a conjunction. Notice that there is a relationship of opposites between these 2 sentences, so the word but would be a good choice for linking these 2 sentences. Remember, though, that if but is used to link 2 complete sentences, a comma must be placed right before it. Another way to link these 2 sentences is to use a subordinating conjunction, which is what we're talking about in this video. One subordinating conjunction we'll be looking at is although, which expresses that these 2 sentences have an opposite relationship. We can simply place although in between the 2 complete sentences, but when we do, we'll need to eliminate the comma between the 2 sentences. We'll be talking more about using commas with subordinating conjunctions in just a few minutes. Subordinating conjunctions are words such as because, if, and since that can be used to link complete sentences. There are many subordinating conjunctions. These are just some examples. But with the exception of very formal writing, the most commonly used subordinating conjunctions are because, if, since, although, after, and so that. Now let's look at how these subordinating conjunctions can be used to link complete sentences. Here's an example. Like our earlier examples, this sentence has 2 subject-verb combinations with only a comma in between them, so it's a run-on sentence. Notice that these 2 complete sentences have a cause and effect relationship. The first sentence causes the second one to be true. So the subordinating conjunction because can be used to link these 2 sentences by simply placing because in between the 2 sentences. But unlike when we use and, but, or, and so to join sentences, we do not place a comma before because. So we can link these 2 sentences by attaching because to the second one. When we do that, the second sentence becomes what's known as a dependent clause, which can come either after or before the other complete sentence. But notice that the placement of the dependent clause is going to affect the punctuation. If the dependent clause comes after the other complete sentence, no comma is used. But if the dependent clause comes first, a comma is placed between the dependent clause and the complete sentence. So as you can see, the use of subordinating conjunctions is complex, but many of us use lots of subordinating conjunctions in our writing naturally, so it's important to know the grammatical conventions that are associated with them. If you know and can apply the following 6 points, you should be able to punctuate sentences that contain subordinating conjunctions correctly. 1. Subordinating conjunctions such as because, if, and since can be used to link complete sentences. 2. The subordinating conjunction is attached to one of the two sentences. 3. Using a subordinating conjunction to join two sentences turns one of them into a dependent clause. 4. A dependent clause cannot stand alone and must be attached to a complete sentence. 5. A dependent clause can come before or after the complete sentence. And 6. If the dependent clause comes first, place a comma after it. If the dependent clause comes second, no comma is needed. Now we'll look at a few examples of sentences that use subordinating conjunctions incorrectly. Here's the first one. I've included a reminder of what we just went over at the bottom. Pause the video for a moment and try to figure out what's wrong in this sentence. Remember, using subordinating conjunctions such as because to link two sentences together makes one of them a dependent clause. The subordinating conjunction always comes before the dependent clause, so the dependent clause here is because the person plops her hand into yours. Remember too that if the dependent clause comes first, place a comma after it. If the dependent clause comes second, no comma is used. So in this sentence, there should not be a comma before because. Here's a corrected sentence. Here's one more example, which just reverses the order of the clauses in the last sentence we looked at. Again, pause the video for a moment and try to figure out what the problem is in this sentence. In this sentence, the dependent clause comes first, so we must place a comma between the dependent clause and the complete sentence it is attached to. This concludes part 4, the final part of this lesson. Remember, if you're viewing this as part of a module in Canvas, click on Take the Quiz below the video to get some more practice. If you're having trouble with the quiz items, make sure to watch the video again. If you still have trouble, contact me to get some extra help.